Well, it's 7 o'clock, so we can call this meeting to order. We will start with roll call. So Greg,
Here.
Amy,
Here.
Sue,
Here.
Jeremy,
Here.
Colleen here, and Matt and Kyle are not present. So pursuant to the state extending the open meeting law provision, we're allowed to meet via Zoom. And if you want to read more about it, it's online because I don't have a great script for that tonight. And we are here to meet with CFC. So we can start with reorganization, unless I missed a step, Greg.
No, I think that's good.
Great. So I'll take a motion for chair.
I nominate you to keep going.
Move that we
Second.
to nominate Colleen as chair again.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Roll call.
Okay. Greg,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Jeremy.
Aye.
Colleen, aye. Okay, and vice chair?
I move to make Jeremy vice chair.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those by roll call. Greg,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Colleen, aye. Okay, motion passed. And clerk.
I move that we make Greg clerk again.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Greg,
Aye.
Amy,
Abstain.
Sue,
Aye.
Right now you're making me work.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Colleen, aye. Okay, motion passes. All right. So William is not coming in tonight, but we do have Evan, and he can discuss some ClearGov with us.
All right. Hi, everybody.
Aye.
Okay.
So, as some of you know, we are moving to the ClearGov platform. ClearGov platform hosts a number of different things for the town. And one of those things will be capital planning. So for a little background, ClearGov is an online hosted budgeting software and transparency tool. So it's going to allow us to do our entire budget in the cloud and share that out with the public, and also allow them to go back and review data. The capital planning function of it is pretty neat. We just had our kickoff meeting today, so I don't have full access, but I do have their website. So what you're seeing here is basically the provisional dashboard that people will get. So what will happen is we will reach out to the department heads and ask them to upload any of their capital budget items and requests into this software. Now, a lot of that we can actually do kind of ahead of requesting them to do it. It'll probably be faster if we do our initial upload from what the work that you folks have already done. And then we're going to set about trying to capture the things that we've likely missed at some point. And the nice thing about this is that it's going to allow us to produce, this multi-year plan, which is shareable. It will produce reports for us, and we'll be able to invite different groups to have reviewer rights to this document that we create. So I don't want to just read you the website verbatim, but this is essentially what happens. We're going to collect the data first. And so we are, I believe we're going to be able to give them the Excel sheet that the town uses now and upload a lot of that into the portal. And then from there, collect the data from the department heads and then start to actually build the capital plan, which the software does pretty well for you by putting in when the asset is due to replace, the priority of the asset, cost of the asset, potential funding sources for the asset, and so on and so forth. So this is the two screens that you'll be seeing more of. So the top picture is the dashboard, as I showed at the beginning. And what's pretty neat is you can use the data points that we enter to filter out different projects. So if we want to filter projects by return on investment, by funding sources, operational costs, revenue you could get from the project, we can do that, as well as ask the department heads to upload pictures, attachments, and the cost estimates right to each, and it'll become affixed to each asset. So you can have multiple pictures. Let's say we're gonna replace a fire engine. The department can go around, take pictures of their fire engine that they currently have, upload that data, connect it right to the piece of apparatus that we're going to replace, as well as costs of the new unit, and so on and so forth. So it really puts all of that data right at your fingertips. They're also going to be able to go in and submit their requests right through the portal. So there are forms that are already there, which we'll probably use for the most part. But what's kind of neat about ClearGov is that we can then go and adjust those forms by adding data fields that we want to collect, or things that we think are important to ask the departments to answer. Obviously, kind of goes without saying, the requests that go in here, it's hard to see on this, but over here on the right where it says actions, and having used this software, it's pretty neat. So there's status and action. So status will tell us whether we're in process, we fully funded it, we've not even started funding it. But then there's also tabs over here that allow us to accept and request and reject requests. And once we do that, one of two things happen. Well, actually, either way, the department is notified that their asset or their request has been accepted, or they get an email saying it's rejected, and then we can talk to them about why we would reject that as part of the capital plan, and what needs to be done to make it acceptable, if it ever would be. And then this is some of the other stuff that I was talking about. So you can score the requests and rank them based on criteria that we pick, and criteria that we prioritize. So we'll be able to, basically assign a numerical value to things based on the different. You can have multiple criteria, and you score it out, and then this will take that aggregate criteria number and put that into our plan as a order of action that we want to take. Scenario planning, I'm not going to go too much into because I don't really know a lot about that part yet. Having only gone through our initial kickoff, and this is a little bit of a new tool that they have. But it basically will help you build scenarios to make sure that we stay in the budgeted amount that we have, and allow us to move things around. As we know, when you get kind of up towards the cap of what you can spend for capital, you find projects to plug in, and it'll help us do that, or show us areas that we may want to, opt some items out. And then you can, obviously, the whole point of this software is to be able to build reports, and capital planning and capital budgeting is no exception to that. So we can build trend reports that show you what you've spent over years, what each department has received over years, and help you trend that out to see if we're on track with what we're currently budgeting for capital money. And then this is the transparency piece. So, and I think this is pretty cool. So when you're doing a capital project, once the project gets funded, you can go and build a project page, which basically shows where it is on the map, where we are in the process, what those costs are going to look like, and any attachments that might go along with the site plans, renderings, whatever it is. So for some things like a fire truck, you probably don't want to do it specific on geography, but it can still have a project page so that when we get our initial, fire truck pictures from, Pierce or Spartan or whoever we're buying a truck from, you could throw those right up on here and show the public where their tax dollars are and where that project is as far as completion. So that is kind of the high level overview of this dashboard, this product.
Amy?
Yeah, so that is all very exciting and looks awesome, and I can't wait. The question I have is actually about CPC and how their process is there a section of this tool that they would then use, or would they be expected to continue to do their analog process?
Nope, they would be able to use this as well. There's multiple ways you can do. Let me back up one step. So CPC is always the black sheep of capital planning, right? So they're a funding source and a partner in driving these projects forward, but they don't really fall into a municipal bucket of where to collect them. And so one of the ways you can do that in a capital plan is you can make them look, act, and feel like a municipal department. The other way that you can do that is capture all of their projects in the capital plan and then identify them as a funding source. So that's one of the key areas of capital planning that gets missed a lot, is identifying early on the potential funding source that you have for that, whether that be a grant, CPC, free cash, operational expense, whatever you want to capture that as. So I think that when we are developing our capital plan, we need to keep that in the forefront of our minds of how we want to recognize CPC. And the other thing that's kind of interesting about trying to capture CPC in your capital plan is you don't know what projects are going to be presented until they're presented. So a lot of that is just making sure that we go through the process of collecting that data, even if it's after it's been funded. Because you don't always, if a resident comes up with a project that's capital plan that you could use, let's say disc golf course. Not that I, like them or would like to see one built in Grafton, but let's say hypothetically we want
We
to
have one.
We have a disc golf course?
Yeah,
Where?
Nelson Park, a Girl Scout troop built it.
Is it 18 holes?
No,
No, I think it's like 4 holes.
9.
Oh, 9? Okay.
I don't want to brag, but I built a 27 hole in Munson.
Well,
So I mean, we got to start speeding this up here.
this is Girl Scouts. I mean, hello.
Well, we got to get the Girl Scouts working out there.
I don't know who you would talk to about that.
I don't know.
But anyway, so can I just cut in with the CPC question?
Absolutely. Please stop me. Yes.
I'm just wondering if it might be worth talking to other communities that use ClearGov
Yes.
and see what the pros and cons are of CPC being a department vis-a-vis a funding source, because it's entirely possible that they might not fund something in a given year, right? They don't have to fund anything
Right.
in a given year. So
Right.
how much does that mess us up? And I'm just curious to hear how other towns do it, and if they wish they had set it up differently, or
Right.
because it seems to me like that's something that once you set it up, it's pretty much going to be that way. You can't really undo it.
I think so. One of the things I've liked about ClearGov in my experience with this company is that you can undo it.
Oh, good.
But they have a very depth. Very depth is not a way to put anything. They have a very deep field of knowledge, having worked with 100+ communities throughout the Commonwealth. So when we say to Louis, who's one of the onboarding people, how are other towns doing capital vis-a-vis CPC, and what are the pitfalls we need to avoid? They'll either tell us who to talk to, or we'll have specific examples of how other towns do that and how it's gone either well or not well. I found them when we were doing the transparency stuff and the budgeting tool, I found them to be very receptive to the feedback we had of things that didn't work, but also when we were, going through the onboarding and saying, "Oh, I had this idea. This is how we're going to do it," and they'd say, "So, Barry did that, and it was a disaster. So don't do it that way. Do it this way because Waltham did it this way, and it's working out great." They have that knowledge, and I think they'll be helpful with that. So, part of this whole process of making the switch over to ClearGov is not doing anything in a vacuum, and making sure that as we go through the training and onboarding, that we're asking these type of questions. And one of the things that will happen is when we do the training, you will all get invited to that training to get a hands-on, feel of how this is. And so how I envision it working is, you all will have reviewer rights. So you can log in at any time and see what's happening. And then we'll make those active changes while the committee is meeting. One of the gripes that I have in Grafton so far is that all of these documents are in a public file, accessible to all the departments, which seems like a great idea until somebody breaks it. Or somebody moves something or changes something. You really need to have a hierarchical approach of how we're going to be inputting data. So the nice thing about the reviewer aspect of ClearGov is you can put right on each asset any question that you have tagged right in it. It's like a chat function where the department head can actually go back. Sue can go on and say, fire chief, how come we need another ladder truck? We just did this 10 years ago. And the fire chief can say, we did, but we bought a unit that didn't last like we thought it would, whatever the answer is. Doesn't matter. But it can go right back and forth. And then you as other reviewers, see that commentary going back and forth. And that either answers the question you already have or triggers another question or whatever. So I find that to be pretty useful. I think that the hardest part is getting your department heads to answer the questions. Not because they're being evasive, but because it's another tool that they have to log into and answer. But once they get used to it, it really is handy. And then, last thing, the only other thing you have to do is if there's questions that go back and forth, we need to make sure we acknowledge and discuss them in open session when we come back, which is not that hard. We can just pump that out a report and talk it out in the beginning of your meeting or whatever.
So I have a couple questions, and you might not know the answer to that, but for like CIPC and CPC, will it also track like revenue and how much free cash and override money, and is it separated like that? Or with CPC, how much money needs to go to affordable housing or open space, or does that report out?
I don't know. I know that the other part of the dashboard will track, obviously, our free cash, the budgeting side of the house, our free cash, and that. I'm assuming from what I've watched or what I've seen that we're going to be able to carry that data over into this, right? This side of the platform talks to that side of the platform. The split out, it probably will not do. That's probably something that we have to do ourselves.
Okay. And then another question I have is, we just passed the bylaw that says how department heads need to submit capital requests, and it's not going to align with this new system. And how do we want to work that?
I don't know. I think we have to think on that just a little bit, but I
think the way we wrote it might be flexible enough that we can fit the wording into this process.
Well, it says submitted to the town administrator. So,
which this does.
Okay.
I'm the head of ClearGov.
And that's how you want it. That's perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Just so that I just feel like that's something that's going to need to be addressed when people read it today.
Mary Loria and I will be the admins, and then everybody else will have rights under us to varying degrees. And the reason for that, obviously, is that you have to have somebody that can undo mistakes, but also ensure that we have a product that has not been adjusted unduly. I mean, that's you can't have people doing that. So once the department heads hit submit, they lose control of what they submitted, which is actually very nice because it triggers conversations around why changes need to happen. And in my experience, 95% of the time, the change doesn't need to happen. And we're able to help control costs by having those conversations rather than basically giving people free access to a document that they then go and adjust, and you lose operational control pretty quick. So I do really like this platform. Mary and I spoke to Louis from ClearGov, I think in my third week, and asked him to write up a proposal, thinking we were going to do this a fiscal year later than we are. But that's why we're able to kind of turn it around quickly. So speaking of that, can I give you an update on timeline? Because I think that that's going to impact how we're operating. So there it is. Lost my spreadsheet here. So we're looking at a go live date for the entire platform of September 1st. That does not mean that we won't have functional access to be building and operating in the background. We will be able to get in there and mess around much sooner than that. We just won't be able to hit the go live button and make it all accessible to the public, because there's different boxes we need to tick before we do that. So I think that we will be on track for a Capitol Summit in August, and be able to use this tool.
Awesome. Well, that was our next agenda item, is to discuss the Capitol Summit. Does anybody have any other ClearGov questions before we move into that?
I have a real quick one. Evan, are you going to be able, I know you're new here. I was just wondering if you're going to be able to go back 5 years of the capitals that we've done already and be able to plug those in?
I believe we can. I think that in looking through what files we have, some of it will be manual. We're going to have to go back through town meetings and warrants and try to figure some stuff out. But I think that it's important to do that to the best of our ability. And rely somewhat on the department heads that have been here. They know their departments. They'll say, "Oh, I bought that in blah, blah, blah." And a lot of them will have the data that we may be missing. So you have to, we're going to build it to the best of our ability, knowing that it's going to be close, but it might not be perfect. And, I think at a certain point, we're going to have to live with that. I think the budget is more solid. We'll be able to export that out of SoftWrite. And so our numbers will be pretty tight. Capital's a little wonky. I know from trying to build a capital plan from scratch before, it just missed, things were missing. They got put into a line item and funded out of the operational budget where we bought a pickup truck, and it just doesn't get captured anywhere else. So you need the department head to say, that's when we bought a truck, or, so we'll go through that. We're going to build it to the best of our ability. There might be, assets in there that we put a little note attached to them that says, this asset was purchased in 1996, and that's all the information we have. And we'll have to live with it and move forward.
Yep. Thanks.
Perfect. Do you want to discuss the Capitol Summit a little further, but when in August, what we can do to support you in this, and what our roles would be when we get there?
Yeah, so I'm looking at, hold on, I just got to click to a different week here. So I was hoping to have it Wednesday, August 25th during the day, so that I can have all the department heads come in to a centralized room. And, it's a little part training, it's a little part discussion, it's a little part kumbaya, and get everybody on the same page and rowing in the same direction. That said, I'm fully open to other thoughts or discussion points on when that might work better. I was trying to do it during the week to not make the department heads come in on a weekend if I can avoid it. Um,
I like that idea. I know in the past there was one held open to the public at night, and like 2, maybe 3 department heads showed up. So it was
Mhm.
very sparse. So I think during the day when you're going to, at least I would get more out of that. But
Okay. That was my thought was, and then buy everybody lunch and, make it a thing, it's part team building, a lot of it. And part, it goes a long way. I think if you get everybody in the room and everybody hears what other departments are doing and understands that it's not just their silo, but we're building a dynamic plan that helps move everyone forward. I had great success with it, of getting departments that, normally it was a shotgun approach where you just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, mixed metaphors aside. But, that was the way. And it was a competition. It was, you were competing against the other people for the dollars, which it always is, but it doesn't have to be adversarial, right? I used the example, and I probably did this when I talked to you folks originally, of, police cars and bark mulch, right? So we need a new cruiser, but we also need more playground chips for the kids in one of the playgrounds. And we're literally at capacity for what the budget can support. When you are the police chief and the park and rec director, and you're in the same room having a conversation, things happen like the police chief saying, we were going to upgrade all our light bars this time, but we're gonna wait till the next cycle, and then that frees up $5,000, and you'll be able to get your wood chips. You start to have those kind of conversations that don't happen when they don't have that kind of contact. That's not capital, but it'll happen with capital too. So I like to. I really like the idea of we're gonna spend half a day or 2/3 of a day in a room together. It seems like a long, wasteful meeting, but you're building more than just the capital plan, in my opinion.
do you have a location in mind?
So I don't yet. Just because I don't know. I have to reach out to a couple of different locations and see what their COVID restrictions are. I'd like to do it off site if I can. We could always do it in the gym or talk to the schools about getting an area, but
Nice new
sometimes,
library.
what's that?
Nice new library.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Or we could do it in the library. That might be cool.
Yep.
So we can, I don't know yet. I was originally going to try to do it somewhere like Community Harvest Project. Cause it's offsite. It's not tied. No, it's nobody's domain. It's, it makes people think differently when they're not in their fiefdom or, at work tied to something else. But the library is a great suggestion. That might be kind of cool as kind of our new functional space.
Amy?
Another good space for something like that is the large group instruction room in the high school. It's got
Okay.
whiteboards on 3 sides, and the
Ooh.
tables can be reconfigured to put everybody in a circle.
Okay.
I use that for my Girl Scout leader meetings, and it's a nice setup.
Okay.
I mean, I hear what you're saying about fiefdoms and departments and all that stuff, but it's a great room that I feel personally is very underused in the community.
Okay. That's a great suggestion. Yeah. And I think, having worked enough with Jay so far, I don't really worry about him as a fiefdom person. So I think that would work out just fine.
All right. And is there anything specific you would want from CIPC, or just really show up and listen? Or
I think it's show up, listen, have a conversation, and then, your bailiwick, I think, starts kind of after that in a way, right? I mean, not that you don't have input at that table, but it really, when we start holding the nighttime meetings and selecting which ones are going to go, this is really the summit is more about make sure we're capturing data and then also helping people think in a different way about what capital is and how you navigate it, what it looks like. We're going to do some real simple stuff about return on investment, and trying to get people to think about, if we're spending $5,000 a year on something and we can buy our own equipment for $25,000, what's our payback time? What does maintenance cost factor into that? Getting people to think, and quite frankly, in Grafton, you have a lot of that already. people are doing a lot of that. I know that, working with Paul at DPW, he definitely has that mindset already, which is great. But it doesn't hurt to refresh that and maybe get people thinking about things differently again. So.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any questions about the Capitol Summit? Okay. Well, I think that's it. Evan, if there's nothing else you want to discuss with us.
I'm good. As soon as we get more materials from ClearGov, I mean, it's going to be an ongoing discussion, and as we onboard, we'll keep coming back and having these conversations. And
Is the training something that would be at night, you think, or?
So generally, when I did this before, we did it twice, I believe. We did one during the day and one in the evening. The other pro to this software platform is, one, Mary and I are very familiar with it. Two, it's very intuitive. It's point and click. So if there's a plus, you click it, it expands the list, and now you can see more stuff. It's pretty easy. And then three, we'll record the training session too for anybody that can't be there. And I think we'll cover all the bases that way.
Perfect.
All right.
Yep.
Cool. Well, thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming in.
And absolutely. So anything else I can do, you let me know and I'll come back.
Sounds good. Thank you.
We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Good to see everybody.
Oh, wait, you
Jeremy,
make someone a
nice to meet
host.
you.
You're
I
a
don't
host.
think Jeremy and I met. What's that? I'm a
You're
host.
the host. Yeah, you got to make somebody a host.
Oh God, yeah. I almost just ended your meeting for you.
Colleen host.
Yep, I'll make Colleen the host again.
Hey, Evan, are there new hours for the municipal center?
There are. I didn't advertise them last week because I wanted it to be a soft open. Quite frankly, having done this before, people come out of the woodwork of reasons why they can't stay the whole time or whatever. And I wanted to vet that out before I had the public show up and have doors not open. But yes,
Okay.
we're open till 7 on Tuesday nights, and then we close early on Fridays.
That's not applying to the fire department, though?
No.
Okay.
Just the municipal center itself.
The building. Yeah.
Yes, the building itself. Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah. See how it goes. So far, so good.
I should ask Jay if he's observing that or not.
Yeah, I don't know. We're both busy and running in opposite directions. So we do not. I thought being in the same building would help us cross paths more often, but it really doesn't. We're just
No.
always doing other things. So, yeah, I don't know what he's doing up there. We should ask him. I think somebody. You could reach out.
I might,
Okay.
but I mean, he has to be a crossing guard. So
Right. Well, that's why I kind of don't burden. I did add him to the list of municipal updates though, because I did realize that they weren't getting any of the updates from the building. So like when the air conditioning's off, is down, they don't know. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't they be on the list? Why wouldn't we just add their names to the list when you send it out to the whole building? So they're on it now.
Oh, good.
So there you go. Okay. So Colleen, you are the host.
Thank you.
So in theory, when I log off, you will still be here.
Thank
All right.
you.
Have a great night, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.
So the next thing on our agenda is to discuss our joint meeting with CPC. How did everybody feel that went?
I'll go first because I was surprised by all right. So my expectation was that they were presenting the grant process and that it was a meeting for everyone to learn the grant process, not just us. So for the very first thing to happen on the call to be, Colleen, why don't you tell us what it is you're here for? Caught me by surprise. So I guess at some point, somehow the expectations got mixed up. I still don't understand the grant process. I don't understand how people find out how to start the process, if a project they have in mind even qualifies. I really thought it was a meeting for the whole community that we were just kind of tagging into, and maybe I'm wrong, but that was my expectation. So I don't feel like I learned any.
Well,
So,
That was definitely my expectation as well. After watching the meeting, they announced doing this. I don't know if we flustered them by saying we wanted to attend that, if that changed their point of view at all and what they wanted to present. It did sound like they rely heavily on what's posted online as their expectation for people to figure out what to do. But I was with you. I thought they were going to be presenting and we would be listening and maybe asking some questions along the way. And it didn't seem to be that way, which I still thought it was pretty helpful to signal, hey, I want to have a good working relationship with you guys. And I do think it was a beneficial meeting, but it wasn't what I expected it to be either. Anybody else have any thoughts?
That's pretty much mine as well.
Okay, so I guess we can just keep stoking those flames and hoping something comes from it. I mean, I don't know. I'll keep an eye on their agendas, and if they have a workshop, maybe I'll just privately signal to you guys and post a meeting. I don't know.
Will it be worth our effort if we ask them if they're going to do a grant presentation?
I can
You
send,
know, and
yeah, I can send an email asking because they advertised they were doing it that night and they didn't. So I don't know if they have a makeup night for that at all, but okay.
it'd be nice to know just if that's something they're really planning to do, or it was just kind of thrown
Yeah.
out there.
Okay. So if nobody has anything else to say about that, we have some minutes to approve for May 26th.
I move the committee approve
I
the
move-
minutes of May 26, 2021 as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, Greg,
Aye.
Sue, Amy,
Aye.
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Colleen, aye. Okay, passes. I probably shouldn't have said all those in favor and then forced you to vote in favor, but
You're used to being back in person again.
I'm so confused. Yeah, I feel very rusty on Zoom. How quickly you forget. All right. So I know this isn't on our agenda, but I'm going to throw out there that George Hill is still something to be on the lookout for. And I think at one point it was going to be targeted for tonight, but it didn't make it on the agenda. So I will target to try to get that happening as quickly as possible and looping everybody in on that needs to be.
Who was going to do that presentation?
So when I had reached out to Evan about that, I know the idea of having Paul and Brian involved as well. I don't know where that landed with that. I think Evan was going to reach out to them. I don't know if that happened yet. So and it may have, but I'll get it on an agenda, even if it's a meeting just for that, and like another half-hour meeting kind of thing, just to get that ball rolling. I think it would be important.
Well, since Penny said something to the select board, I would think that they would take the initiative to hold some kind of a public information night on it or something.
You would think that. I have not heard that, but it doesn't mean it's not happening. I have not heard that.
Well, I mean, she sent the letter to the select board, so has she been acknowledged that the letter was received? And
So the way the select board handles correspondence at this point is it gets included in the meeting packet, and if any individual member wants to speak about it, they can bring it up. And I know I did not bring it up, but I also don't recall which or what packet it made it into, because I saw it in my email. So that doesn't always mean I triggered to look at the packet under correspondence, and that's my bad for sure.
well,
So-
when you get something like that, Colleen, does the chair send out something acknowledging that they received it?
So I'm not super clear on how all correspondence is responded to. So I know I've seen some where people feel like they didn't get a response, and some people get over responses because we don't loop everybody in on our response. So I know I responded to her. I can't speak to everybody else.
Well, I would think that it would be the responsibility of the chair to send out at least an email saying we received your email or your letter. And maybe at some future date, we can discuss it or whatever, but I would think there should be some kind of acknowledgement that you received their emails with their concerns.
And that may happen, and I'm not aware of it. All I can speak to is that I know I responded to her, but not, I don't know.
Answer you back?
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think she was psyched with me.
Maybe the appropriate course of action here is to invite her to this meeting.
Yes.
And, all meetings are publicly posted, but maybe we can advertise it and say, if you're interested, this is not a public hearing, but if you live on George Hill or near George Hill, I mean, we could do something that way, I guess.
But
No, I like that idea.
You're going to have,
Or the town could do it. What, Sue?
you're going to have somebody like Paul or Brian in here to answer all the details and the specifics, because we don't know any of
Right,
them.
right. Well, that's why I was thinking it should be in person,
Yeah.
because I'm not, I'm not super comfortable with really technical things. Roads are not my specialty. And so I really need to have it all explained to me like I'm 4. And I know I'm not alone in that regard. So I think, the town should definitely promote this meeting. They should do one presentation and it should be recorded. And then, we go from there. But I think the biggest issue is that people don't understand exactly what we're talking about here. They think George Hill is just another road that needs to be paved. And that is not the case. It's not just a simple paving.
No, because
So,
it's a drainage
I
issue.
think it's important.
All right, I will get
Right.
on that and try to
Yeah.
get something set up as soon as possible. And if everybody's in agreement and doing it in person, I'll make it sure it's in a room that has recording capabilities and all of that.
Well, maybe you want to discuss it with Evan, like how he would want to handle that correspondence and the issue with George Hill Road.
Yep,
But she's the only one who's written, correct?
that I've seen. That doesn't mean other people haven't written to, Evan specifically or people specifically, but that's the one I saw, which is why I forwarded it to the committee, because I knew it was on our radar.
I know Paul was concerned about it. He had spoken to me at a meeting last year and asked where the George Hill Road ended up on ranking. And I said it didn't make it for this year. I know he was concerned about it because every time we leave it off,
Yeah.
price goes up. So
Well, it made the cut this year, but we took it off because we were concerned that if we funded the engineering portion but didn't have funds to handle the whole project, it would be wasted dollars and the engineering would have to happen again. But that might not be the case. It might need to happen first to get all of the other dominoes to start falling. So that's another part of the conversation that I don't think we were fully vetted in, and we thought we were being conservative by doing it that way. But next year, it's going to float up higher because it made the cut this year. So I'm sure it'll make the cut next year.
because you have to do the engineering to find out what the cost is going to be.
Right. But I don't think we all had that clear understanding when we were discussing it. So. All right. Well, we've discussed that a little bit more than we probably should have. I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
All right, motion is second. Greg,
Aye.
Sue,
aye.
Amy,
Hi.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Colleen, aye. All right, we are adjourned. Good night, everybody.